Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Welcome everyone to lecture number 9, and um, in our series, just apologies, it's a little bit early over in San Diego because of the time change that happened yesterday. So 6:30 a.m. in the morning here, and I got a little bit of a cold, so but bear with me. Okay. Shri Guru Vyo Namaha. I will start off with our Shanti mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make an effort for the capacity of knowledge to take place. May whatever we study be clear, and let us not have any misunderstanding between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay, so last week we looked at the entire Puranic literature, focusing, of course, on the Bhagavata Purāṇa. We looked at the fact that so much of the literature, so much of the Puranic texts concentrate, at least in a part, on the cosmology. We talked about Sarga, Visarga, or in other terms, Utpatti, Shrushti. So those were the talking about the origin of the universe and how it actually populates, cosmogenesis, cosmogony, and cosmology as well. Bhagavad Purāṇa, as we talked about earlier, is a conversation mainly a conversation between two people, Sukadeva Goswami and King Parikshit. Parikshit is actually facing an impending death of his physical body in the next 7 days, and he goes over to Sukadeva to learn about how to transcend the physical body, how to understand the divine manifestation that is present, and that's why his interest in the cosmology, in how the divine manifests itself in the universe. So the Purana, Bhagavad Purana, concentrates in the fifth canto. The Bhagavad Purana is divided into 12 cantos, skanda, and they are pretty almost like 12 different books in the entire Bhagavad Purana. There are 18,000 verses, and as you know, in Sanskrit, each verse, each shloka is got so much meaning in it. So the 18,000 verses can easily fill up entire volume of books. So in the fifth canto, Bhagavad Purana specifically delves into cosmology, and it describes the structure of the universe, the movement of the planetary systems, and location of the planets, and so on. It gives a pretty detailed geography of the universe. It talks about the Bhumandala, the plane, and everything beyond it. It gives quite a detailed description of the dimensions and distances of the cosmic features. And we talked a bit about yojana last time, because that is the unit of distances that Bhagavad Purana uses, and many of the ancient Indian texts use in expressing the unit of distance. We also talked about the fact that Bhagavata Purāṇa gives a pretty clear description of the motion of the sun, the moon, the planet. We'll talk a little bit about more of that this time. But in doing all that, in keeping with all the astronomical texts that we find in the Indian tradition, it never goes away from the devotional elements. So never never talks about cosmos being a separate part and the divine being a separate part, or the religion being a separate part. So this is a very clear synthesis of science and religion, as religion is understood in the modern terms. So talking about the fifth canto itself, the fifth canto is divided into 26 chapters, and it actually talks more about cosmology in the later half of the fifth canto. So chapter 16 onwards, it talks about Jambu Dvipa from 16 to 19, Mount Meru, Sun's orbit in chapter 20, chapter 21 to 23 about the planets and the subterranean realms, which we talked about, which is the Garbhodaksha saga or ocean. Okay. So we also talked about how Bhagavata Purāṇa addresses the entire aspect of cosmogenesis, or the birth of the universe, and it talks about cosmogenesis as an eternal cycle. It does not believe, or does not even, or none of the ancient texts talk about the universe being a linearly expanding or linearly resulting phenomenon. It talks also always about these eternal cycles, and cycles of creation and dissolution, Shrishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya. So Sthiti being maintenance, Pralaya being dissolution. So it actually talks about the fact that these universes, or these innumerable universes, originate from the pores of Mahavishnu. So they talk about innumerable Brahmandas emanating with every breath of Mahavishnu. So when Mahavishnu exhales, universes of Brahmandas are created, and when he inhales, they are annihilated. Now, if you look at the time cycles that they're talking about, they talk about the existence of Brahmanda in trillions of human years. So you can understand that the difference between the exhalation and inhalation is number of countless years almost between inhalation and exhalation. So very difficult for us to imagine, but that is how it's being proposed in Bhagavata Purāṇa. Now, there are interesting parallels that we see between this multiverse theory or the whole cosmogenesis that is described in Bhagavata Purāṇa with the multiverse theory proposed in the bubble universe theory, which in the last few years in many papers being published on this in this topic, especially in the area of astrophysics, there is a growing interest, even though that there is nothing that they can. It remains in the speculative realm. It is not something that they can measure, So it is theory at the moment, but it corresponds, intriguingly corresponds with the whole cosmogenesis that's being talked about here. So if you concentrate on one Brahmand and we look at what that Brahmand actually means, we looked at that last week a little bit. We talked about Brahmanda being a massive egg-shaped universe, and like I said, one of countless many. And this egg-shaped or elliptical object is again very common in all ancient Indian astronomical texts. So there is a great deal of importance that is assigned to the shape of an ellipse. That is something that you'll find in repeated in many of the old ancient texts. Yeah, so Bhagavad Purāṇa actually talks about the Brahmanda being made up of 7 layers, and then so there are um, layers which are the Pancha Mahabhuta, which is the 5 elements, and then as the layers go outside, it becomes more and more subtle. What they also say is that each layer is 10 times greater in diameter than the one before it. Now, if you look at Bhagavad Purana and the dimensions it's given, and you convert the yojanas to miles, we're looking at a diameter of the Bhumandal, which is supposed to be in the middle of the Bhuloka, is about 4 billion miles. And then if you uh, take uh, 10 times greater for 7 layers, you come up to 44 quadrillion miles in diameter. That tends to be the math that you can get from the size of the Brahmanda in our given in Bhagavad Purana. Now, the modern computation of the size of our Milky Way is not very far from this. So this again, the modern is something that we cannot actually measure, because it's no one can go outside the Milky Way galaxy to measure the diameter of the galaxy. But the estimation is that it is a few hundred quadrillion miles, which is not, again, not very different. But again, what I'm just pointing out to is the similarities between the two, or the intriguing similarities between the two. And then it also talks about the fact that our Brahmand is a smaller universe as compared to other Brahmandas. And I think there are a couple of stories in Bhagavad Purana where the originator of our Brahmanda, or our Brahma, actually meets the originators from other Brahmandas. So he realized that there are many Brahmas, or countless Brahmas, that exist in the universe. So let us look at a little bit more in detail on the actual Bhulok, or Bhumandal as it is known. So if you look at the Bhumandal, it is in the form of a disk. So you can loosely translate that to being the Earth Mandala, because there is again, Sanskrit and English, there are a lot of untranslatable words, but again, this is a loose translation. So it gives its diameter as 500 million yojanas. Again, we've seen different units of conversion, and based on that, it's about 4 billion miles across. So it acts like a cosmic world, a cosmic map of the world we inhabit. Now, I'll come to the different interpretations of what that actually means. But it divides the Bhumandala in terms of dvipas and sagas. So, right at the center is Jambu Dvipa, and then you have another Dvipa called the Plaksha Dvipa, Samnari Dvipa, Kusha Dvipa, and so on. And again, it talks about each Dvipa, each island being separated by different oceans of equal width. Now, again, I will talk about this a little bit more. And then so this is the edge of the Bhumandala, and beyond this edge is basically, it says this is the boundary of sunlight, or this is the boundary of where this where the sun's influence is. So there are many who have taken this as to mean the solar system, but again, we can talk about that as we go along. And then it says that beyond it lies the Aloka Varsha, or the dark region. Okay, so then if you go look at the center, Jambu Dvipa itself, it divides into different varshas. So first it has a Mount Meru or Sumeru Parvat right in the center. And it talks about a lot of height of this Mount Meru, 84,000 yojanas, which basically is many thousands of miles. And it talks about the structure as being a inverted cone. It has 16,000 yojanas at the base and 32,000 at the peak. Now, what it actually means, and again, we'll talk about that as we go along, is that it is a cosmic axis. It's a polar axis of the universe. That I will talk about that. It then also actually divides Jambu Dvipa into 9 regions or 9 varshas. And it also talks about Bharat Varsha. And so some people have talked about Bharat Varsha as being India, or some people about as being part of Asia, and some actually even talk about this is the entire Earth, and this is where the humans actually live. So it also talks about rivers that flow from the summit of Mount Meru, and it talks about so there are a lot of poetic imagery in terms of his description. So all this description given in Bhagavata Purāṇa might sound a bit unrealistic, and might sound more poetic than actual science. So there have been a lot of interpretations for many years. So let us talk about some interpretations, and one in particular. So so many of the commentators have actually talked about Bhagavatam mostly in a spiritual manner. Now, this is one person, Dr. Richard Thompson. He was actually a very well learned person. He did his PhD in mathematics from Cornell. Again, he wrote a number of papers in statistical mechanics and quantum theory as well. However, in the middle 70s or so on, he uh, got a lot of interest in the area of Indian spiritual texts and so on, and he became a part of the ISKCON society, and then he took on a challenge by the founder of ISKCON, Prabhupada, where the challenge was that what can be interpreted from um, the ancient texts like Bhagavata Purāṇa into the modern scientific understanding. So he founded an institute called the Bhakti Vedanta Institute. He wrote a couple of books. One book was Vedic Cosmography and Astronomy, but he also wrote another interesting book called The Secrets of the Sacred Universe. Both of these books look at the interpretations from a modern scientific perspective, and he actually spent a lot of mathematical rigor behind his interpretation. So very impressive the work that he'd done, and is being carried on. And I think they have a Vedic planetarium built on that. It's either being completed or was recently inaugurated, I think, in West Bengal. So Thomson was not obviously the only person who looked at Bhagavata Purāṇa and the interpretations. Many astronomers like Aryabhatta used um, the Bhagavata Purāṇa to actually talk about many aspects. Relatively modern people like Bal Gangadhar Tilak also looked at Bhagavata Purāṇa in his text. So there are also modern people like Subhash Kak. He also talked about many aspects of Bhagavata Purāṇa as well. So what he described Bhagavata Purāṇa, or the different aspects in Bhagavata Purāṇa as a composite map. So he said that there are many aspects, many things that are combined into one, and it's very easy to get confused if you do not know the background, if you do not understand the background, understand the context. Now, he gives an example of one painting where there are three aspects of the same story that are represented in one painting. So in this particular story, Brahma actually is shown to get jealous of Krishna, and actually on his goose mount steals away the cowherds, boys and cows, and locks them up for a year. But in another aspect of the story, Sri Krishna actually is shown or talking to the cowherds that boys that Brahmaji actually hid, and then Brahma realizes that Krishna is actually the divine manifestation, and he can manifest into all these cowherd boys, and then actually prostrates before Krishnaji. So basically, this is an entire story that is represented by one painting. So if you see that, you will actually see two Brahmas and two Krishnas, and you won't understand this painting unless you knew the story. So this is same character coming multiple times in a single within a single frame, and it was very common kind of storytelling convention in Indian art. So what Thompson has done is actually said, okay, Bhumandala is a composite map and is actually represented by four aspects. One is a polar projection of the Earth's globe. I'll talk a little bit about this, where the Bhumandala is actually a planisphere, is a stereographic projection of the Earth's globe onto a flat plane. It is also acts at the same time as a map of the solar system. It is a polar projection, a map of the solar system. It is also a geographical map, a map of Jambudvipa being split into different versions. And at the same time, it is also a spiritual map, a spiritual realm of the Devas, where we talk about Mount Meru and so on. So, can anybody tell me what this is? Does anybody recognize it?
The United
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. So this is the United Nations flag. But the interesting thing that you notice is this is a 2D representation of the Earth's globe. So this is the way you would actually get a polar projection map of the Earth's globe, that you would take a tangent to a circle, and the tangent being at the North Pole, and then you will actually project the points, which are points on the globe, and they will be projected onto the plane. There's also a medieval instrument which is known as the astrolabe. I'll talk about the astrolabe. And this is the projection of the globe onto a flat plane. So this is how Bhagavatam represents Bhumandala as a flat or 2D projection. So some people mistakenly have talked about this actually being meaning that it is a flat earth, but it is clearly not that. In fact, in different areas of Srimad Bhagavatam, they talk about Earth being a globe, and daylight on one part of the Earth is actually a nighttime on other part of the Earth, the diametrically opposite part of the Earth. So it is not at all a representation of a flat Earth, but it is a projection of a 3D onto a 2D. So this is the old medieval instrument, which is the astrolabe, and that was actually used in many of the medieval European kind of systems, astronomical system, where they had a mater, which was the bottom plate. They had so it was a stationary plate. Then they had a rotating plate. They had a reti, which again, all these correspond to the mater being the base plate, and the reti being the star map. So this was actually one of the ways that the astronomical aspects of the universe was represented by an astrolabe. And this was the similar thing that the Srimad Bhagavatam used in its representation of the Bhumandala. And there was also a rotating, which actually talks about the ecliptic, the rotation of the sun, because it looked at looked at it from Earth's perspective, it is again a bit of a misunderstanding. It talks there are many people who talk about this being a geocentric model rather than a heliocentric model. But many of these interpretations, whether it's Thompson or whether it's Subhash Kak, they talk about the fact that it's not a geocentric model. It is actually looking at the universe an Earth's point of view. So it talks about the fact in many situations that planets orbit the sun. Just like the Earth, but it looks at it from an Earth-centric point of view. The second thing that Thomson used Bhumandala as is a representation or a map of the solar system. So it talks about Bhumandala being a symbolic and a multi-dimensional map of the solar system. Now, it's important that they talk about it from a multi-dimensional point of view because it talks about different areas, different heights, which actually correspond very well to the ecliptic and the fact that the sun is at an angle. So he talks about the sun being at an angle of 23 and a half degrees rather than the earth being tilted, but it's essentially the same thing. And it talks about the moon going around this ecliptic. It talks very much about all these areas of the conjunction, the ascending and descending nodes of the moon's motion, and talks about eclipses and so on. And if you look at these dweepas and the saga between them, they actually correspond very well within 3% in terms of the yojanas that they describe it as in mapping out the orbital diameters of the planets, which is quite interesting. So the ring widths, so there is a TTS Bodhi law, which is basically an empirical planetary spacing, which was in the late 18th century devised. And this actually corresponds very well with that, with these planetary orbits. It also talks about the sun going around the Earth. Now, again, like I said, from a relative and representative point of view, it talks about the axis of the Earth's rotation, of the sun's rotation, being Mount Meru. So there was a calculation again by Thomson, looking at all these different numbers given in the Srimad Bhagavatam text about in terms of yojanas, and if you compare them to the orbit of the different planets and even the asteroid belt, it talks about that as Dvipa as well. It corresponds again, like I said, within 3% of all these different orbits. So it is again very intriguing to note that you have these different areas, different aspects that we can actually look into in terms of the representation of what is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the movements of the sun is another thing that it talks about very descriptively. It talks about the chariot of the sun. So it is described as a chariot going with the axle, with one wheel, so the entire axle being connected to Mount Meru, which is essentially like the axis, and the entire wheel describes 1 year. So it actually says that it takes 1 year to have one revolution of the wheel, and the wheel has 12 spokes. Uh, it is uh, it is intriguingly pulled by 7 horses, which can also has been differently interpreted as being the seven colors that of light that we see when we split the white color up. The sun circles Mount Meru, and it has a circumference of is described in these many yojanas. Again, if you use that 8 and something miles per yojana, it comes to 760 miles, which is again very close to Earth's orbit circumference. Again, an intriguing aspect. And it talks about the speed, which is maybe a little bit again beyond our understanding what it actually means. Some people have talked about this it meaning different aspects of lights and maybe quark and those kind of speeds, but I think we won't go into those aspects as such. Um, because it's kind of beyond our understanding. So it also talks about the movement of the sun, where it talks about very explicitly mentions the zodiac signs and Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, or the northward solstice, southward movement. Talks about day and night very clearly. So there should not be any confusion about Bhumandala representing a flat earth at all. Yeah, Madhu?
Yeah, maybe a quick question to the audience. This sun's chariot is a very interesting thing, right? Described with one wheel, 12 spokes pulled by 7 horses. Uh, can you guess how this is actually embodied in our day-to-day lifestyle? Can you give an example of how we are using this symbol in our culture? Uh, or maybe which particular time of the year does this symbolism actually become relevant to us? Any idea? So the clue is actually there in the sun's chariot, right? It's a chariot. So
Ratha Saptami?
exactly. So the
Yes.
Oh,
The Ratha Saptami is it is basically, see, Ratha Saptami happens during the Magha Masa Shukla Saptami, right? Which is right after Uttarayana, right? So it kind of indicates the northern movement of the sun, right? Or the beginning of those days. And incidentally, if you look at the symbolism of sun in our culture, it is always shown that the sun god is in the chariot drawn by the 7 horses, and there are 12 wheels in the chariot also. So, which symbolizes the 12 months and the seven colors of the light, or 7 days of the week, or the seven Vedic meters. We don't know which one is that, and of course the 12 months, right? So we are actually worshipping or kind of acknowledging this every year when the Ratha Saptami happens. Incidentally, Saptami is also the seventh day, so I don't know, maybe there's a seventh symbolism there as well. But I just thought I'll mention this while we are in that context, Ajay. So back to you.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you,
interesting.
Modi. So let's see. How are we doing on time? Okay, I'll see here because I really wanted to cover some aspects of this, and I wanted to finish it off in this class. But let's see. Uh, maybe I'll go quickly a little bit on this. And then you can have the slides to look at it later. But Bhagavatam also talks about the moon, the planets, and the stars and their position. Uh, Again, the moon is set to be positioned above the sun. Now, again, there is many interpretations on how can they say this, but this is all to do with the fact that the sun is going around, or the earth is going around in an ecliptic fashion, and the moon is actually orbiting the earth, and therefore, from that perspective, it is supposed to be above the sun. So that is one of the conversations in Gargi and Yajnavalkya. I think Yajnavalkya actually talks about the moon being above the sun. So there are many aspects on people not understanding that very clearly. So it talks about the month, the orbit of the moon. It gives different, again, the three-dimensional aspect to the Bhumandala. Talks about nakshatra. Here it does include Abhijit. So it talks about 28. So which also talks about the fact that how ancient this text actually is. Talks about the Dhruva Loka and the Dhruva Tara, and it talks about the fact that it is a pivot star, and all the stars and planets revolve around Dhruva, and it gives it an analogy as an oxen tethered to a post. And it talks about the entire universe as being a cosmic dolphin, Shishumara. And there it talks about Dhruva being at the tail and the entire thing being. And this is very. And this has been interpreted by some people as the entire thing being very similar to the Milky Way. Uh, the other thing, of course, is it talks about the different realms from a vertical point of view. I've made a couple of notes on this, but it talks about the different lokas, the upper seven upward lokas and the seven lower nether worlds. But yeah, Bhuloka being what we are inhabiting, the plane of the earth, Bhuvar, and all the way up to Satyaloka being Brahma's abode. And it's again, it talks about time dilation here. It talks about the fact that time runs very slowly on Brahmaloka and or Satyaloka. And it talks about one Brahma's day is equal to 4.5 or 4.32 billion of human years. So again, I won't go into all the aspects of it. So I think the main thing to understand is important because it talks about the description of the sun, moon, planets given relative to the Bhumandala plane. So So I think, from a vertical point of view, it is important to understand. It also talks about universe as a multi-layered reality, not just physical, but including all the stars, all the cosmos, and the lower planets also. I hope this is not stuck. All right. Okay, so I wanted to basically look at how does it stack up with what we know right now, because many of the aspects do sound unrealistic if you just look at it literally. But if you look at it from a more holistic point of view with all the different interpretations, uh, and again, I think one of the things I want to mention is the fact that I have looked at it in a little bit of detail only in the last few months. And people have spent years and years on it. I still have not been able to go through uh, the Puranas, all the Vedanga Jyotisha. So there is so much. We are not even, we are scraping the tip of the iceberg with this. So there is so much knowledge of astronomy, of cosmology that exists within all our ancient texts. And this is, I'm just introducing you to it, and there's so much more that you can delve deeper into it. So, what does it talk about? It talks about the shape of the earth. Again, people understand this wrongly as being a flat earth theory or flat disk, but it is very clearly explained as a conceptual plane, as a 3D cosmos map. So it is not a physical flat surface, it is just a representation. He talks about the center as, so many people talk about geocentric versus heliocentric, but it is the geocentrism is more of a representation, but it's data, all the data that is there in Bhagavata Purāṇa is very paradoxically heliocentric. So again, this is a little bit of misinterpretation, sometimes misinterpreting or based on ignorance, or misinterpreting deliberately, as some people have done. And so then it talks about the scale, different units, and again, the scale is very large, very vast, and it kind of loosely aligns with the modern understanding. But keep in mind, even the modern understanding is more based on estimates, and they're not exact numbers. He talks about the orbit of the planets, and that data is pretty accurate, and the patterns seem to again are heliocentric. But then people are again, like I said, fixated on this geocentricity. It talks about all these stars in the nakshatra mandala. It talks about a galaxy, and it talks about the Shishumara kind of representation. So I wanted to quickly conclude. Bhagavata Purāṇa is very much a multi-layered cosmology. It is simultaneously with a physical model, map of the universe, and importantly, a spiritual metaphor. So again, if you look at many of the measurements reported in Bhagavata Purāṇa, they are very accurate, within a few percent of what is measured now. And it basically bridges with the terrestrial and the celestial. So it talks about understanding the stars, the skies, as a part of understanding the divine. So it talks about the entire cosmos being a divine manifestation. So this is quite something that you will see in many of the ancient scriptures, ancient texts of within the Indian astronomy. So again, it is not, it is only geocentric from a representative point of view, but it has very clear heliocentric realities which are there. So it is both a observational and a spiritual synthesis. So it is really a synthesis of science and spirituality. And so what it also tells us is that there was no such thing as a separation of science and religion, or science and spirituality. I put the religion in quotation marks because religion is understood differently in the modern sense. So there was no real separation between science and spirituality, which is probably a better representation of religion in ancient India. And it also has this huge, vast timelines, and it really instills in us a sense of humility, because what we are looking at is a very, very tiny fraction of what the entire cosmic time actually is. And so just by looking at it, we know that we talked about mythology in our previous lecture, where mythology has been used almost as a pejorative term to talk about ancient Indian texts and Indian legends. So I think here we see a synthesis of myth and math. So they are coexisting and really enriching each other. So this is just one example Srimad Bhagavatam is just one example of the depth of knowledge that exists within our texts. So these are just some of the references that I use, that I looked at. I'm sure that there are one of the texts that actually Raj Rhythm commented that I could have looked at as well is Subhash Kak's. I just looked at it briefly, but there's quite a bit more. But there is limitation of time that we have, that Madhu and I have been trying to put these lectures together, but we can only look at more things as we go along. So I did not have any assignment as such in this lecture. There is what I really wanted from you is if you can put together your views on how the entire text is framed, how it corresponds to modern science, what does it mean? I think that is basically the assignment that we look forward to. If you can put it together in whatever format you like, and send it over across to Madhu and I. We will have a look at it and come back to us. Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, if there are any questions, please go ahead. I see Dr. Rajeshri had her hand raised.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think this was a very interesting perspective that you gave. Thank you very much for this. But I personally have a feeling that this is more metaphorical than uh, real in literal, in the sense that we can understand this. And I think scientist Thompson's interpretations have, I think, made some sense of how we can relate the metaphors and the symbolism that is there in the Bhagavata to what we can understand to the cosmos that we know today of. What I was curious was, are there any other Indian scientists or Indian writers who have also given their interpretations to this, which could, be a different perspective or a different idea towards how these metaphors and symbols could be understood by us?
Yeah.
Or is it
So
just a couple of them?
I think Subhash Kak is a prominent voice on this. So I can send you the links of his books as well. But he has one of his famous books is called the Astronomical Code of the Vedas. So that, but I'll send you a link to that as well.
Is that different from what Thompson is saying, or is it
Yes,
similar?
yes. It actually is not very different, but it also talks about a few other aspects that are not covered in there.
Interesting. Yeah, I will. It would be interesting for me to read if you can please send that across.
No problem. That's fine. I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And Mahesh?
Hi, namaste. This in the last slide, you mentioned about that. I think there's a mention about Shishumara.
Yes.
So that actually I read in I think the Bhagavatam, that because the Shishumara in Sanskrit means dolphin,
Yes.
and they refer to this. Take the dolphin eye of the dolphin is where the entire universe is, and some description like that. You put the dolphin on its side, and the eyes is where the entire universe is there, and it's some description of Vishnu and how everything in all the universe is there. So I remember to have read that. I don't know whether that is what here it meant.
Yeah, I think they talk about the fact that I think I mentioned in one of the Shishumar is basically with Dhruva at the tail and the cosmic form of Vishnu.
And he talks about process like you turn the dolphin and on the side, and one eye it the entire universe is contained or something. I mean, I didn't quite understand the explanation much. How the dolphin comes into being and how that is compared, I don't know. But I remember to have read it.
This person actually Hebel, he talks about interpreting Shishumara as Milky Way, and so that is definitely one something that you can have access to. I think this is free.
But there in Bhagavatam, it doesn't refer to the whole dolphin. It only refers to the eye of the dolphin.
Oh, okay. I see.
That's how it comes. It says dolphin and then it says eye of the dolphin. Let me see whether I can get hold of that and maybe
Yes.
I can let you know what I
Sure,
study.
sure. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, Shriyata?
So I'm actually kind of curious about one of the very first slides that you showed about, the distances, where you're describing the Brahmanda as, 7 layers, and then you're looking at
Oh,
how far it goes out. I think it was probably from the last class. It's like in the very beginning. Where was that?
this
Yeah,
one.
something about this. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm just curious when you say that it's 44 quadrillion miles, and you describe that as the edge of the Milky Way. So our understanding of modern understanding, not our understanding, modern understanding of the universe is it's comprised of several Milky Ways. Is Brahmanda an interpretation of a Milky Way? In
Yeah,
that sense?
that is Brahmanda is our Brahmanda. So they talk about the fact that there are countless Brahmanda, which is what is the modern science coming to, that there is multiple universes around. So they talk about Brahmanda as being, our Brahmanda being around 44 quadrillion miles. Again, if you use uh, uh, the metaphorical representation of the distances. So that distance comes out to be 44 quadrillion, and the modern measurement of the Milky Way comes out to be a bit more than 100 quadrillion.
Okay. So because the reason I'm kind of a little confused is because the Brahmanda is a description of, we interpret it as a description of universe. Modern science's concept of universe is a vast area with several Milky Ways, and the math is computing to probably the edge of our Milky Way. I'm just
Yes.
wondering that if Brahmanda is actually a representation of our Milky Way, and then there are several Milky Ways in the entire universe.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think the modern view is basically that we have the universe initially was basically talking about just one galaxy. This was 50 years ago, and that now they are expanding to billions of galaxies. So, yeah. I mean, what does Brahmanda actually correspond to is an open question, and different interpretations have different theories around it. Madhu, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, so the notion of modern day universe is also changing very rapidly, right? For example, until a few years back, uh, you know, the ideas were different. But then more recently, they have found out that the extent of the observable universe is just 3% of what could actually be the real universe. The rest 97% is comprised of both dark matter, that is matter that we cannot observe through any instruments, and the majority, I think close to 60% of that 97 is actually dark energy. It's not even matter that we cannot observe, right? So I think that is one thing. Second thing is, I think the extent of our observable universe was 13.6 billion light years. That was the general accepted distance until recent years. But then now JWST, with its very powerful observations, is probably changing that idea as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe some of these are limited by the, maybe the observational capacities of the day as well. Uh, so there is, so yeah, I think we should take it more like a metaphor, and maybe not literally that's for
Yes.
44 quadrillion millions. Maybe I think the concept is probably more important here than the actual number. I mean, that's the way I kind of look at it, right? In terms of the vast magnitude of the cosmos, number one, and the cyclical nature, which continuously is getting emphasized in our ancient texts, right? So I will stop. Maybe we should not take some things very literally. And that's
Yeah,
how that's
exactly.
the way to reconcile it. Otherwise, if we try to force fit this into a modern astronomical mathematical context, we will have a lot of contradictions, and that will be very tough knot for us to resolve.
Yes, exactly. And I think, metaphorical, and I think it's also another aspect is that, we should not dismiss it because it doesn't correspond to our views straight away. So there is something that we don't completely understand, and this is probably beyond our understanding. However, there have been attempts now, basically different things that are show that that actually say, okay, there might be some correspondence in some areas, but again, it's more metaphorical and more beyond our understanding. Maheshji?
One other question in this picture, you showed this Meru and Jambu Dvipa, and it is written known world. Am I correct?
Yes.
So in normally our sankalpa, when you do it in India, you
Yes.
say Jambu Dvipe, Bharatavarshe, Bharadakhandhe, Meroho, Dakshine, Parshve, and all that. So that entire thing is on south of Meru, like that. But
Yes.
even though it says known world, see, since I live in US, this sankalpa is totally different. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it is the whole world. I don't know why the sankalpa should be different. But there it says, instead of Bharatavarshe, we say Ramanagavarshe, Kraunja Dvipe, Ramanagavarshe, Aindrakhande. And we don't say Meroho, Dakshine Parshve, we say Bhumandalasya Paschime Parshve. So this is somewhat different. I don't know. Here, if it is everything is the whole world, this sankalpa should have been same no matter where you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I think, like I said, there are so many different interpretations of this. So
And also, one of my friend from the US, he said this Jambu Dvipe means this. We say, some people interpret it as a Jamun.
Island.
But
Yes.
he said that is not true, because apparently he said in Kannada, I mean, he's from Karnataka. He said that Jambu is it's another fruit. I know, I have seen that different parts of the South India, they say different name. In Kerala, they say Chambakya, for example. I don't know what it is called in Tamil. And he said in the same fruit, in fact, he showed me a picture. That's how I remember. I got it. So he said that is called Jambu, and apparently that fruit was very prevalent in the whole of India years ago. That's what his understanding or his learning is.
I think, the
Interesting, yeah.
main thing is that we got to keep on looking at this from a composite map. So that's what was trying to coming out of this interpretation, that you can have multiple interpretations of the same thing. So
And also, if you go back to that picture you were in that first slide, I believe.
this one?
No, first slide, the one we
Yeah.
were talking about. Yeah, see, here is when you do that, our 14 logs, Bhuloga, then Suva, Mahahat, Janaha, Tapaha, and the last one is Satyam.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right? Which is what here is called as, I don't know, upper loga, I don't know. What is that? Brahma loga. Brahma loga, right? That's called Satyam.
Yes.
And then same with the Atala, Padala, Vidala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Pata. Rasatala, Pata.
Interestingly, I think when you chant Rudram,
Yeah,
you
no,
have
even
that.
even some other sankalpas also it comes. But even Sandhyavandana comes after Tapa Loka, it is Tapaha Asatyam.
So especially Rudram, because to say that Lord Shiva actually rules these lower
Yeah.
worlds actually. You don't get that Swarloka, the higher worlds don't appear in Rudra. It's the lower worlds where Lord Shiva actually rules.
No,
So
actually, if you
Rudra,
look at Taittiriya Upanishad, it talks about all this loka, and it said if you go from Bhuvaloka to Swaloka, you have to do so much karma, and then 10 times of that is to go to Mahaloka, and then 10 times of that. I mean, there's a whole description given there.
Right, right.
yeah.
Which was very weird. When I read, because normally Upanishad doesn't talk about karma. It is all Brahma, no? But there are Upanishads which talks about little bit about karma, but I think it's in Taittiriya Upanishad or one of the, I think, yeah, it is Taittiriya Upanishad. It says all this. I'll tell you which only it is. It is very interesting how they go by that.
Okay.
So all these, what I'm trying to say is, all these things, you find these references in many parts of our Shastra, whether it is in Upanishad or Vedas or Karmakanda or Bhagavatam or maybe some other Puranas are there referenced in a different ways.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and some of them are very cryptic. That is another problem. And they interchangeably use some names. So, if you read it, you may get completely you may go completely tangent. It's very, very interesting. Anyway, thank you. It's very interesting lecture.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so
I mean, do you have a better picture of this where we can read? Somewhat hard to read what is.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, maybe if you get it.
Especially, I don't know what is written on the top of that Brahmaloka. Something is written. We'll send a few lines. I can't read it.
Okay. I'll see if I can get some.
Yeah, if you can just post it in the WhatsApp group.
Sure. Okay, so
Thank
next
you.
lecture is basically going to go over some of the works of the ancient astronomers. So that is what we plan to do for the next lecture. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you, Hariom. Thank you.
Hari Om. Dhanyawad.